If you keep up with UFC news, you've probably heard of Jon Jones' recent and most serious charges of domestic abuse. It seems as if the UFC light heavyweight champion has struck a plea deal with the court and has gotten his case dismissed. Let's take a closer look at some of the details surrounding his case. Trigger warning, this video contains mentions of domestic violence, blood, substance abuse, and drinking. What went down after the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony? On September 24th, right after the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony, the police were called to the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas with reports of a domestic disturbance. Jones had been staying at the resort with his fiancée, Jessie Moses. Jon Jones strikes a plea deal, domestic violence charges dismissed in Nevada. According to reports, the altercation occurred after Jones returned to the hotel room after a night out with friends. When Moses had tried to quietly leave the room, he had pulled her hair. Jones was initially charged with domestic violence and a felony for tampering with a police vehicle. Moses claimed that while she and Jones did argue, she denied that Jones had hit her. Moses told the police that he touched the back of my head and pulled my hair a little bit. All three of their children were present during the altercation. However, contrary to what Moses said, according to the police report, a security guard had noticed Moses' bloody lips and the bloodstains on her clothes. The guard had seen the blood on Moses when she had come down to ask for a key to her room. When asked if she was all right, Moses started crying and explained that she did not feel safe going back to her room. Moses and her children were moved to a security office. The youngest of Moses' children had asked the security guard to call the police. Even the police observed that Moses' clothes had dried up blood on them, and she seemed too scared to talk about the incident. The police also found blood in the hotel room where the incident took place. They found blood on the bed sheets and on shoes lying around the room. The incident took such an impact on her that she refused to have any pictures taken of her injuries and even declined to accept a domestic violence card with information about a restraining order. What was the court's verdict? Jones struck a plea deal with the prosecutors in Nevada and was able to get his charges dropped. In return for the dismissing of charges, Jones pled no contest to misdemeanor charges of destruction of property that range between $25 to $250. The court also added a condition that Jones had to stay out of trouble and was also ordered to pay $750 restitution to the victim. In addition, Jones has had to get counseling for anger management. As a result of everything that went down, Jones has said that he's going to quit drinking and put all of his attention on his career instead. However, negative actions come with their own consequences, and Jones was banned from his longtime training home in Albuquerque. The athlete gave up on his light heavyweight title and announced that he would be moving on to heavyweight. Here, too, Jones had some difficulties. Not only did he have some trouble with the UFC, but also with the UFC president Dana White. The issue mainly revolved around how much money the fighter could make with his new heavyweight division. Jones, who holds a 26-1 record for MMA and a 20-1 record in UFC, hasn't had a proper fight in almost 2 years now. His most recent fight was against Dominic Reyes at UFC 241 in February of 2020. Even though Jones has an impressive career record in the ring, the same cannot be said of his track record in real life. The UFC champion has been convicted quite a few times in the past. Some of his previous records include a 2012 DUI conviction, a 2015 hit-and-run conviction, a 2019 battery conviction at a strip club, a 2020 DWI conviction, and multiple failed drug tests in 2015, 2016, and 2017. UFC domestic violence cases. You'll be surprised to hear that Jones isn't the only one who's been charged for domestic violence. With quite a few high-profile names being involved in domestic violence cases recently, things definitely aren't looking good for the UFC. Luis Pena, who is a 9-3 pro MMA fighter and has a 5-3 UFC record, was charged with domestic violence and battery twice this year. The 28-year-old fighter was arrested earlier in October 2021 for battery causing bodily harm and for battery domestic violence. Pena was accused of hitting his girlfriend in the face multiple times with closed fists and did not stop even after she fell to the ground. According to police reports, Pena also struck another woman who tried to intervene. Pena was released on a $6,000 bond a few days later. After Pena's release, the UFC announced that they would be letting the fighter go. The UFC spokesperson stated that it's best for Pena to focus on his personal and legal issues before he competes again. The UFC statement highlighted that Pena had been open about his struggles with mental health and substance abuse issues, and that they have tried on multiple occasions to get the fighter appropriate help. According to some news reports, when Pena was arrested earlier in June on domestic violence-related charges, the UFC had provided Pena with an advance sum of money to help him get appropriate treatment. However, it seems that maybe some time off work and appropriate treatment may seem the best solution for Pena. Chuck Liddell. Not too long after Pena's release, the media was flooded with news of Chuck Liddell's arrest. A complaint against domestic disturbance was filed in the Liddell's Hidden Hills home in California. After confirming that there had been a physical altercation, Liddell was taken into custody on charges of domestic abuse and was later released in the morning for a $20,000 bond. Liddell took to Instagram to clarify that he was the victim in the situation, but had volunteered to go in place of his wife. He wrote, "This was one of the many times that I have tried to shield a family mental health issue from the purview." He went on to state that he would try his very best to get his family through this difficult time and requested everyone to respect their privacy. Later in the week following Liddell's arrest, the charges were dropped as there was a lack of sufficient evidence. The case was classified as cross-complaint, which basically means that both Liddell and his wife had accused each other of being the aggressors of minor domestic violence. Liddell's wife Heidi held no visible injuries, while Liddell had red marks on his cheeks and a red mark on his chest. The police had also interviewed Liddell's daughter regarding the matter. She stated that while she had seen her parents pushing each other, she did not see who started the whole incident. According to some news reports, the fighter has filed for divorce in the Los Angeles Superior Court. Mike Perry. Earlier in 2020, UFC welterweight Mike Perry was accused of domestic violence against his ex-wife, Danielle Nickerson. According to Nickerson, who was in a relationship with Perry for 5 years, the UFC fighters abused her a few times over the course of their relationship. She stated that the abuse started not long after their marriage in September 2019. The worst of it came in early 2020, when Perry pushed her to the ground and kept hitting her in their home in Orlando. Nickerson fled to a neighbor's house and was eventually picked up by Perry's mother, Sabra Young. Young took her daughter home with her and has also called 911 when Perry later arrived at the house. Initially, Perry did not answer any questions regarding the assault allegations. However, later in November 2020, Perry clearly denied the allegations. Perry stated his relationship with his ex-wife had its ups and downs, and as a result, the two have been legally divorced. He further said that there was nothing that was really backing up Nickerson's allegations. According to media reports, Young had called the police in her panic and reported that Perry acted violently. However, no arrests were made that night, as Perry had downplayed the whole incident. Perry turned the situation on his mother, stating that she was being overdramatic. Nickerson even went on to file for a restraining order against Perry, and eventually filed for a divorce in March 2020, and it was finalized later in July. Following these allegations, Perry was also caught on video knocking down an elderly man outside a restaurant. All of these incidents prompted the UFC to order Perry to seek treatment. Honestly, Perry's defense of his behavior and his denial of the allegations seem hard to believe. The explanation he provided for the allegation seems quite problematic. It feels as if he's trying to turn the situation on both the victim and his own mother. What do you think of Perry's explanation? Do you think that the UFC has a domestic violence problem? If so, how should the industry address the issue to ensure the safety of victims and also accountability from the fighters in such situations? We would really like to hear your thoughts on the matter. Drop us a comment down below.